All right, this is Rabbi Tobin, B'nai Shalom. We're teaching Talmud on Mondays, and I'm glad that you are here. Honestly, Stan, how many times did you go back and see me on the...
I followed every class. I didn't miss a class.
It's really nice. And I'm glad to know that the archives...
And what I want to tell you is when you watch on the thing, you get a real close-up of Rabbi Tobin eating.
Well, every bite at a time. Is he chewing with his mouth open? Is he not chewing with his mouth open? I know. What can you do? It's not lunch and learn. It's watching Rabbi Tobin eat.
Right.
Okay, so we are in the Schottenstein. We're on 29A2, and we are starting a new topic today. We are closing the topic of who in your family is allowed to be a witness, and the answer to that is nobody.
Yeah.
All right, so all around, you cannot use family. Family by birth, family by marriage. As witnesses on your documents. You can't use your family, you can't use your uncle's family, you can't use your sister-in-law's family, you can't use your nephew's family, you can't use your children's family. You can use exes as long as they don't have any children who are your own progeny. Okay, so if you ex-spouses whose own children are your progeny, are also not ever going to be kosher for you. Okay, and it doesn't matter if it's a monetary case or a capital case. It doesn't matter if you think it's for your benefit or to your detriment. They went through everything, and it's just don't do it with family. And the main reason is because no matter how distant the relative is, somewhere they're in a line of succession, as if all the wrong things happen the right way. And they could inherit from you. So any financial deal that you're involved in, they potentially have a stake in, which means they're not objective. You can't testify about your own issues in that sense, not as witnesses. You can testify in a court case about your own stuff, of course, but you need witnesses to prove your point. Okay, so that was pretty much what we've been working on. Now we get to another question entirely. We are now going to say, how do you proceed with the witnesses in the court of law in a way that will guarantee they're behaving properly and being honest? That's the main thing. So how do you examine witnesses is the case. And there's a couple pieces to this as far as answer. There's the what do you do to scare the heck out of them so that they will only tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help them God. And the other is, how do you actually orchestrate? Like, who's in the room when you listen to one testimony, and what kind of testimony will be admissible? Okay? Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead, and we're going to dive right in. 29A2. Ketzad bodkim et ha'edim. How do they examine the witnesses? Hayu machnisin otan lecheder u'ma'yamin alehem. They would bring them into the courtroom, and they would threaten them. Iyum is to threaten. This says intimidate, it's really threaten. They threaten them. Umotzi'in et kol ha'adam l'chutz, and they send everybody out. Umeshayrim et gedolah shebehen, except for the biggest, most prominent witness among them. So there's a court case. I have a plaintiff and I have a defendant. Let's assume it's money. Let's assume the money is a loan. So I have a person who lent money. I have a person who owes money. The person who lent money is trying to collect the money that the other person owes. Those are the people we're dealing with. There's a group of people who somehow are privy to the knowledge of the loan. Those are the witnesses. We have to figure out, are they privy enough that their knowledge matters? It can actually count in court or not. Do they know in a way that's proof, or do they just know in a way that you can't rely upon? So they bring all the witnesses together. How many of you have ever been called for jury duty? Okay. So I understand in jury duty, there's a moment where everybody's in the room and the judge adjures you about proper behavior. You do not do this, you do not do that, you must do this, you must do that, and probably tells you something about the punishments if you do, correct?
Well, they do it with the video.
They do it with a video.
Yes. That's the new one. Way to do it more.
Rabbi, what's the penalty for bearing false witness to biblical crime?
Bearing false witness, you get the punishment that the person would have gotten if they were convicted of the crime you lied about.
So if it's death,
Yeah.
You get killed.
really?
Yep,
But the
absolutely.
problem is the son had never killed them, hardly ever killed anybody.
Correct.
So it's sort of
But I'm sure in
a
monetary matters, they did it all the time. If,
monitors, yeah.
if you lie in monetary matters, you have to not just pay back the money, but the punishment of the extra fifth that a thief would have to pay, because you're trying to steal from them. You're trying to cause them that harm, right? Okay, so they bring everybody in and they intimidate them. We don't know how yet, but we're going to hear about that. And then they keep the biggest, most important witness in front of them, v'omrim lo, and they say to him, tell us exactly, how do you know, and I'm going to use names, that Reuven and Shimon, okay, that Reuven owes Shimon money, that Reuven is chayev to Shimon. Okay, so tell us exactly how you know this. Im Amar, if he Amar li ani chayav lo, he said to me, quote, I owe him money, end quote. Right? Ish ploni amar li shehu chayav lo, or another person told me that he owes him money, lo amar klum. He said nothing. That testimony in either case is completely irrelevant. It will not be listened to. It proves nothing.
Really? Even the who are Marley?
He said to me, I owe him money.
Yeah.
Doesn't count in a court of
Wow.
law. All right, so guy number 3, we're going to call him Yehuda. So Yehuda is talking to Reuven, and Reuven tells Yehuda, I owe Shimon $100. Now Yehuda is in court. And they say, how do you know that Reuven owes Shimon $100? He says, because Reuven told me he owes Shimon $100. Doesn't count.
Okay.
Nope, no good.
Considered hearsay?
That's an English jurisprudence word, so I'm not going to use it. The rabbis don't use that word. Just lo amar klum. It doesn't count.
Okay.
You need 2 witnesses.
You need 2 witnesses. And we're going to talk about, they have to be kosher witnesses, all the other things we've been talking about, but we're also going to figure out, do the 2 witnesses need to know that they're witnesses at the time they find out the information? That's going to be another piece of it. So we know al pi shnaim yakum davar. We on the basis of 2, something is established. This is 1. So even if it's good enough as a source of information, it's only 1 person. So we're going to have to go in. Is it not kosher because there's only 1, or is it not kosher because you can't get testimony from this person just telling you? What does he not know?
Wait. But it has to be the latter, because they take everybody out of the courtroom.
Right.
They examine the witnesses one at a time.
Right. Otherwise, you'd be throwing people out one at a time, even when you have enough.
No, but the disqualification of that witness is the hearsay, whatever, the hearsay
Right.
part of it.
Lo amar klum.
Right.
So, it was something I wanted to throw in here, but I won't yet. Okay, so let's just move on, because a lot of this is going to become clear as we move on. Okay. And he has said nothing. Lo amar klum ad sheyomar bifanenu hoda lo shehu chayav lo 200 zuz. His testimony is worthless until he says, bifanenu, before us, hodalo, he acknowledged or admitted to him, shehu chayav lo, that he owes him 200 zuz, 200 gold pieces. So Yehuda's testimony is no good until Yehuda says, he said before us. So Reuven said before us to Shimon that he owes Shimon 200 zuz. Until that has happened, until Yehuda can say that Reuven said before us he owes Shimon 200 zuz. That's a very formal kind of a statement. It has both parties named in it. It has the amount of money named in it, and it's an acknowledgement. Hodalo, he acknowledged, admitted, and it was bifanenu, before us. So now Yehuda is talking about who? Who's the us?
Shimon.
Mm-mm.
No,
Reuven
no.
and Shimon are the parties to the case. And Yehuda is saying, Befanenu, in front of us, he.
To his friend, whoever
Another
was with him.
witness.
Yehuda is talking, and he says, Befanenu, before us. So Yehuda is saying, before whom?
The second witness.
The other one.
And who's that?
You don't know yet.
Levi, standing in the hallway.
Right,
Okay?
right.
You don't know yet.
So we have Reuven and Shimon are in the case. Yehuda is talking about us, so there must be a Levi, or some, I'm just making up names,
Right.
who's standing in the hallway. Okay, so now we're starting to have enough information for the judges to be able to take this seriously.
And he has to state Levi as being there.
He says Bifanenu, so I presume he's going to say who the other witness
Who the-
is.
'cause everybody seems to be very specific here. The amount, the people,
Yep.
and their owner
Yep.
and the debtor. And
Ve'achar kach machnisim et hashani uvod kimoto. Then they bring the second biggest witness in. Im nimtzao divreihem mechavanim, if they find that the second witness's testimony lines up with the first witness's testimony, then what?
No sim, but no grim, but
No sim v'notnim badavar. They can open the case. They can now start to. So this is like a grand jury proceeding. You're looking at the evidence to see whether or not there's evidence to have a trial. So what they do is they're bodek at the adim. They inspect the witnesses. They scare the heck out of them. They isolate them from each other. They bring them in. How do you know? The answer has to be specific, meet the following criteria, that there was more than just me. He did it in front of us. He was acknowledging. He was between him and this other specific person, and the amount of money. All of that has been said, and then they put him to the side. They bring the second person in. They do the same thing all over again. The second person's testimony lines up with the first person's testimony, so you can now have a case.
It's like a Talmudic law.
now we can
Now we can have a case. Now that we've seen the
now we can
evidence
indict.
that can be enough to prove it, now we're going to talk about it. Interesting. All right.
Interesting how much of today's jurisprudence comes from this. type
Hang
of
on, one
stuff.
at a time.
How much of today's jurisprudence comes from these type
I
of
have
studies?
no
that,
idea.
you know?
I have no idea. I know nothing about American law. Yes.
I don't even know who's the most prominent witness. So bringing the most prominent and the second most prominent and so forth.
I think that they have to make some kind of a judgment. There's usually, I think it would be standing in society. There would be some evident, maybe this guy's older, maybe this guy's more prominent, maybe whatever.
Wealthier.
Yes.
I have a question, just pull out of a question. So here it says 200 zoos. We just finished Pesach and we talked about the zuzim.
Betray Zuze. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So why does it say zuz instead of zuzim? Because 200 is certainly plural.
Yeah, it's true.
The translator.
I was just going to say it's probably art scroll.
It
But it's
no
the same-
no no
it's the
the
same
no no
thing.
the Mishnah says Zuz. The Mishnah does not say Zuzim.
Okay.
I don't know. It just says Zuz.
Okay.
It's a common parlance to say Zuz as to the monetary amount, the denomination, and the number without making the denomination plural.
Okay.
But yeah, it could say Zuzim.
How did they get the witnesses
Well,
in the first place?
Shimon is trying to make Reuven pay. So Shimon is bringing the witnesses to the original contract to the court to prove his case.
Well, how does he know that he told them?
Aha! So let's keep reading the rest of the Mishnah because that's going to be answered. Okay, you're asking a good question, and let's hear the Mishnah's answer. Okay, Shnaim Omrim Zakai. So now that we have a case, you have three judges. In a rabbinic court, there's always an odd number of judges, and in normal monetary matters, you just need three. So you have three judges. Shnaim Omrim Zakai, Echad Omer Chayav. So two of the judges rule after hearing the testimony that he is free of the debt, and one says he's obligated to the debt. Zakai is the answer. So 2-1, Zakai. He's not liable. Shnaim Omrim Chayav, if two said he's liable to the debt, Echad Amar Zakai, then he's Chayav. Okay, he's liable. So they just vote. 2-1, either direction. Echad Omer Chayav, Omer Zakai. One says he's not. Mizakim Oshnayim Mechayavim. Or if even if two find him not liable or two find him liable, ve'achad omer eno yodea, and the third says, I really don't know. Yosifu hadayanim, they add two more judges to the court.
They don't just adjourn.
You need 3 votes. You need 3 votes of yes or no. And even if 2 of the 3, which is enough to convict him, say guilty or innocent, and if the third one voted, it wouldn't matter how he votes. As long as he votes, you would have a verdict. But if the third one won't vote because he says, it's really not clear to me what the verdict is, then they're stuck. And in the case of a hung jury in America, you let the guy go. In the case of a hung jury in this system, you add 2 more judges to the court.
In the first Mishnah we read, how difficult it is to find judges.
Exactly.
That could be a couple of years before.
And the other thing is how does it help you to add 2 judges? Because now you have, let's say 4 judges agree, and this guy still says, I don't know. Aren't you still stuck?
No,
No,
if you have
you
2
have
and
3.
2, you're stuck. In other words, if the original 2 voted one way, but the 2 new ones voted the other.
But you had 2 against 1, and they were stuck, and they had
But
to
it
add
wasn't a
more.
It wasn't a quorum.
But
You said you needed 3.
Yeah, last time. Like,
But you don't need unanimous rule.
Right. No,
2 again.
one judge. Shimon gets the second, and then Reuben. Then
And the 2 judges
decide
choose the third.
How do they get
These
extra
2?
to-
I think they each pick 1 more judge.
So Reuben will bring another judge, and Shimon will bring
Right.
another judge.
And they're still stuck because they got a guy at the end of the table
but you
not
only
coming up
need-
with an answer.
But you only need 3 judges to vote. So if now you have 5 judges.
No,
so
you
one
can't
does-
ask the judges not to vote. They're on the bait team.
No. I'm saying if the original judge abstained,
He didn't.
he said he didn't know how to vote.
He said, I don't know
No.
the case. I don't know what the halacha is in this case.
But if they have 4-1, then you have your 3.
But you don't need 3. You only need 2. In the first case, when he said, I don't know, you already had enough to convict.
Doesn't matter.
Well, you said that you need 3 votes to have a verdict.
No, you need 3 votes. You don't need the 3 votes to agree.
Right, but that's what we're
2
saying.
to 1
Oh,
convicts,
Yeah, but
unless the one is saying, gee, I really don't know. So why would 4 to 1 be any different? 2 is enough to
because
convict.
you still have your minimum of 3
You
votes.
don't.
No,
But
it's
you
a
don't.
majority.
You don't need
It
3.
doesn't matter how they vote, but you need a certain number of people to vote, whether it's for or against.
Once there are 5 judges, they all have to vote,
and they all
So
have.
does
and
that
one of
make
them
it
is
free?
voting, I don't know,
So why doesn't he recuse himself?
because
So they all have
he's
to
not
vote.
saying he doesn't know because he's stupid. He's saying he doesn't know because the halacha doesn't give a clear verdict. There are places in the halacha where you get stuck and you say teku until Elijah the prophet comes and solves this problem for us. So one of these judges might think it's a teku. There's no clear ruling.
So what's the point? So that by adding the other judges, the only point would be to explain the halacha. If they're not really good for anything
That's
else.
exactly my point. Adding the 2 judges, to me, does not provide any help, except for it makes you rerun the court case because they need to hear all the evidence. And it is entirely possible that in the rerunning of the court case, new questions will be asked, new things will come to light, something, and maybe that guy who didn't know will now know. But it seems very strange to me as an answer.
Why do you think that he did not know how to rule because he did not know the halacha?
think
Maybe
he
he did not
knows the
know how to
halacha.
rule because he didn't trust the witnesses or something sounded peculiar to him.
It doesn't tell us why. I'm going to presume that he's an expert in halacha,
Right.
and that his refusal to rule is from a base of knowledge,
I
not from a
wouldn't
base
know.
of
I would
incapacity.
assume exactly the opposite.
You think he's
If he's an
incompetent?
expert in halacha, then that wouldn't be an issue. I think he just doubted one of the witnesses.
Well, then he would rule against that witness. If you don't believe the witness, you rule against them.
Well, maybe.
But if he wants to tie up the
If he wasn't
proceedings all
sure.
together,
Maybe
then
he
would-
believes the case, but he thinks the witness is shaky.
Yeah.
But then he's really got to say, you don't have a witness, you don't have a case. That's what you really have to do.
That's true.
But Yeah, what we're doing here is legal stonewalling, and if you voted, then the case would be decided.
Right.
Not voting,
Right.
they can't.
This is Arlen Specter in the impeachment trial of Bill Clinton, right? Who makes up some category about Scottish law and says it instead of saying simply yes or no. He's like refusing to say yes or no. Everyone remember that? Arlen Specter in the impeachment vote against Bill Clinton on the Senate floor said, in precedence of Scottish law, I vote not proven. And the chief justice leaned over to the clerk and said, write down not guilty. You can check it out. It's true. It's a true story.
Essentially what he's saying is that he doesn't have enough evidence to know how to rule one way or the other. Whether it's evidence, whether it's information.
I don't know what he's saying. He's saying, I don't know, and there's no further explanation.
How could they deny it if the two witnesses said, we heard him say it? That's it. That's it. Closed case.
We heard him say it doesn't count. It's not a good form of evidence.
It's not.
Not by itself. We're going to see. We're going to see more. You're waiting for your answer. I need to read more to get your answer.
You're doing a construction job.
Here we go.
You know, complicated.
All right. So the Yosefu Dayanim, so they add more judges to the court because that's sure to help. Gamru et hadavar. Now they've concluded the matter. They've reached a verdict. Hayu machnisim otan, and they would bring them in, Reuven and Shimon. And Hagadol shebedayanim omer, and the head judge says, Ish ploni atazakai, Ish ploni atachayav. You so-and-so are guilty. You so-and-so are not guilty.
Right.
So they pronounce the verdict. Now, listen to this. It's very interesting. The Mishnah doesn't usually ask the question uminayin. And from where do you base the authority of this teaching? So there's a teaching that's normally a Gemara question. The Gemara usually asks the Mishnah minayin or minal hani mile or something like on what basis can you teach that? And we saw a lot of examples of that so far in this chapter. So here the Mishnah itself is asking the following question of the following situation. So the judges have ruled, the litigants are leaving, the judges file out the back of the courthouse, the robes are gone, they're just people again, they got their hats, they go down the street and they're sitting in the bar or wherever, the study house, whatever you want to make it. Mm-hmm. And one of the litigants comes in and says, hey, why'd you rule against me? And what does he say? How do we know that when a judge leaves, he should not say, I voted not guilty, but the other two judges voted him guilty. Right? So don't blame me. Right? What should I do? I got outvoted. Al zenemar, regarding such a judge, it is said, Lo telech rachil ba'amecha, do not be a gossip monger among your people. Ve'omer, and it is stated, Holech rachil megalei sod, and a gossip monger reveals secrets. So the judge is being adjured once the verdict has been given not to reveal who voted which way in the court. Right? Very, very strong language.
Kind of like grand jury proceedings.
Okay? So now let's dive in.
The judge's opinions are not published.
The judge's opinions are not published.
So going forward,
right.
How would I know what judge to choose if I had to choose a judge if I can't check his record?
Well, maybe you shouldn't be trying to choose judges
well, you are
for that reason.
You are choosing a judge in the beginning. If I come, I choose my judge.
You choose a judge.
So you have to check.
You know the results of the case.
Or you don't know who voted for or against.
Correct. You don't know which judge did what.
You don't know. How does judges
probably better that you don't know.
Can they,
the point
can they
is,
change the verdict if
No.
this happens?
no.
No?
The point is, I
If
would
it happens
like
to
to know the
judges-
judge's record before I choose him.
People aren't going to choose that judge again, probably, if he's a gossip monger running
Yeah,
around.
but
Maybe they will.
theoretically, you don't know what they did.
Like in a grand jury case, they sometimes interview the jurors and they speak to the,
No, those are petty jurors. Grand jurors can't really say anything.
they can't say anything.
No, only petty jurors.
Those who serve on the grand jury can't.
I've never been there. I know nothing about American law.
You can't.
You can't.
No.
But after a case gets
I
litigated,
try to stay in my lane.
What you're saying is like some jurors that go out and talk to the press,
Right.
they really shouldn't talked about, who will.
Is it illegal?
I don't think
No.
it is illegal,
No,
but
it's not.
but
Once the
it's not
case
good
is
form.
over, it's not illegal.
It's not illegal, but it's not good form.
Yeah, it's a gossip. It's Lashon Hara. It's Lashon Hara. It's all
It's a
Lashon
whole
Hara.
different thing, jurors
Yeah.
versus
It's
judges.
all gossip. Lashon Hara. It should not be done.
Are these judges professional judges?
That's an interesting question. These are probably not full-time professional judges in the age of the Mishnah. These are shoemakers and cobblers and craftsmen and maybe scribes or farmers who are learned in Talmud or Mishnah, learned in Halakha and Mishnah. And so they are judges. The idea that you're out picking judges presumes you're not in a city with a permanent court. You have to find learned people to sit and form that Beit Din.
So basically, you have the person that has themselves a record before you choose.
I would think. Or you could roll the dice. Oh, but those people can't be judges. Dice players, sorry. 20, thank you for the courtesy laugh. I appreciate it. 29A3. Heichi Amrinin Lahu. So now let's go back. What do we tell these witnesses in order to scare the heck out of them so they'll tell the truth? And there's going to be 3 or 4 different theories about what we say to them. At the end of the day, it won't be convincing, but let's have fun with it. Hachi Amrinin Lahu. This is what we say to them. Nisim v'ruach v'geshem ayin. Clouds and wind, but no rain. Ish mitchalel b'matat shaker. The person who gives a dishonest gift. So, in other words, if you lie, if you are honest, there will be no clouds, no wind. There will be clouds and wind, but no rain. In other words, drought. There will be no sun. There will be a horrible wind, and there will be no rain. And that is a plague of drought will come down upon you if you lie. Okay?
Now, who would believe that? No, really. I mean, if you're in a local court and these are
Do you read the middle paragraph of the Shema in your morning and evening prayers?
no, but this
So most-
Rav Yehuda is saying here that if you lie, we're going to have a drought.
Yes.
But this is.
Now, what Jew would believe that? That
You gotta
Rav
think
Yehuda
of
could
this-
bring down
you
a
gotta
drought.
think of-
He's not bringing down the drought. The liar is bringing down the drought.
A lot of Jews back then, people were extremely
Whoa.
superstitious.
The
Don't
middle-
forget,
now,
we're
wait a minute,
talking
wait a
about
minute. The
people
middle
1,000 years ago.
The
They're
middle
talking about
paragraph
people
of the
today.
Shema is very clear. V'hayim shemot yishmor mitzotai. If you do what I say, I will bring the rains.
But
the
that's
rain.
God talking.
This is about you're swearing falsely to God in the court.
But
This is God. It's not Rabbi Yehuda who's going to do this.
okay,
God says if you lie, it will cause a drought. Don't lie.
okay.
Right? That's the point. It's not that they think they have the power to cause it. Now, you might still ask the same question. Who's going to believe that?
Right.
Right?
Well, no.
But the middle paragraph of the
that-
Shema is
Right.
clear
No, I
theology
understand
that I think would have been interpreted
He's-
more literally at that time than perhaps in the majority of people today, but they would have certainly thought offending God could result in drought. Okay, what's the point here? To scare them, to threaten them, right? You want to threaten them in an effective way. So listen to the answer. Amar le Rava. Rav says to Rav Yehuda, Yachil lemeimar, shav shani hava kafna, ve'abava amana lo halif. He says, I'm not scared of that. You can have a 7-year famine. It doesn't enter a craftsman's shop. Like, this might be a leather worker. What does he care about rain? Right? Right? It's not like he's making umbrellas and maybe he makes them, I don't know. Whatever it is, he doesn't need rain to survive. So he's not scared. So you think this is scary, right? The witnesses are going to tell the truth now. You might have a guy who says, rain, shmain, great, I can lie now.
Yeah.
Now I can lie. Rain, that's all I'm worried about. All right, I'm going to do whatever it takes to cut a profit in this deal, right? So that's Rava's response is to Rav Yehuda. That's not a sufficient warning. All right, Ella, Amar Rava. So Rava thinks he's got a good idea. Amrinin Laho. This is the Torah verse we read to them. Mefitz v'cherev v'chet shanun. A club, a sword, a sharp arrow. Ish onei b'ra'eu ed shaker. When a man bears false witness against his fellow. That's a good one.
Where's it from?
That one, according to the footnotes, is in the same original source.
Rashi.
Verse 18. Proverbs 25. Proverbs 25 is a litany of things, bad things that happen to bad people.
Okay.
Okay, so there you have when a man bears false witness, what does he get? A club, a sword, and a sharp arrow. That would seem to be a pretty good warning.
Right.
Well, who's going to do it?
That's a good question. Do we get a club out against him? Because this isn't God anymore. All these are human things.
He'll die violently somehow. We don't know how.
He'll die violently, right? If you do this, which means if you don't do this, you won't die violently. And that's Rav Ashi's response. So Amar Rav Ashi says, that's not going to scare him. Yachli Lamemar, he could say, Shav Shani Hava Matana, there may be a 7-year plague of death. Ve'inish below Shnei Lo Shachiv, but no man dies before his time. So when you die, the day of your death has already been predetermined by God by your deeds. And whether or not I lie here is not going to lengthen or shorten my days because God already knows my days. I don't like that because that would be a reason to do whatever you want, whenever you want, and not care about any form of punishment ever, 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 ever. It's a complete rejection of the entire system. Predeterminism, fatalism, and therefore morality doesn't
Isn't
matter.
it Calvinistic?
They're going to die due to this, that God is somehow encouraging someone to murder this guy in retribution, and the Jew is not allowed to murder someone else.
Right.
So it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. It's catch-22. There's a lot of catch-22s in the motivation logic here. Ella, but let's say that Rav Ashi, so Rav Ashi says that to Rava. So Rav Ashi now needs to come up with a better threat, right? Once you knock the other guy down, you've got to offer your solution. Ella, Amar Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi says this is what it is. Amrli Natan bar Mar Zutra, Natan the son of Mar Zutra told me once, Amrin and Lahol, this is what they tell the witnesses. Sade Shakre Agarai Huzili. Lying witnesses are contemptible. Dichti v'hoshivu shnayim anashim b'nei b'li'al negdo. V'yad'uhu lemor b'rachta Elohim v'melech. Okay, so this is kind of a subtle critique. So Natan the son of Mar Zutra says, this is what you tell them. Lying witnesses are contemptible even to the people who set them up to lie. So why does somebody lie in court? To ingratiate himself to someone, to make a profit, to be important to the person he's lying to. That person's going to owe him a favor. He's going to owe him some money. He's going to, right? There's something you do when you lie that you think you're increasing your status with the person you're lying for. And this is undercutting that and saying, you know what? Snitches are snitches. Right? If you're a guy who lies in court for money, even the person who pays you thinks you're scum. Right? And the case is a case where Jezebel, who is the evil character par excellence in Tanakh, pays witnesses to lie about Navot the Israelite, the Jezreelite guy, because she wants her evil king Achav to take over this guy's vineyard. And Achav isn't so bad that he's just going to take the vineyard. So she sets up lying witnesses that he's committing idolatry, and therefore he will be murdered, he will be executed, and then the vineyard becomes available to be appropriated by the crown, and that's how she gets it. But in the verse where she says, where it says she gets these two guys are referred to in the verse as Belial, scum. Contemptible people. Yeah, you're scum, the son of a scum. Right? They're children of Belial. They're children of scum. Basically, they're contemptible, despicable. Right? So even she's like, go get me a couple really low. Give me a couple low lives. That's what she's saying. So even though she's hiring them, they're not going to get ingratiated with her. She's hiring them because they're scum, and they're even more scum for doing what she says. So this is his point. His point is, don't lie. Even the people you would lie for would think you're scum.
Which do you think is more effective, the rain?
I'm afraid of the sword and the club, personally, and maybe the pokey arrows. Right?
Well, at least in our justice, if you perjure yourself, you go to jail.
Right, but they didn't have jails. You find him, you whipped him, or you killed him. You could excommunicate him. That's it. That's all you got. There's no jails. It's like the George Carlin joke. death penalty for parking tickets. Solves two problems: overpopulation and parking troubles. We good? Okay, here we go. So that's Rav Ashi. Are we convinced by Rav Ashi?
No.
Doesn't matter. The Mishnah moves on.
It's like the court case where you kept adding judges.
Right. It's like the Ashkechans that we had last time, and now it's proven. That's been proven. Ashkechan. That's been proven. Ashkechan. It's been proven because the Gemara is done with it. All right. It's not like it's we're convinced from human nature that any one of these three approaches is going to make people tell the truth when otherwise they were prepared to lie.
Yeah, well, this reminds me of kid logic, advanced to adolescence, which is when you try to teach teenagers to think about the consequences of their behavior before they do it.
Right.
And then what they say is, yeah, but I thought it was worth getting in trouble for.
It's worth, right?
It's not exactly the kind of
Right.
consequences of it.
Be willing to pay the price if you're going to do something that you think is either wrong or you know everyone else thinks is wrong. Be prepared to pay the price.
Sometimes it's worth it.
So, but in the
Especially nowadays on YouTube, it's like, oh,
but there are, but if we think about it philosophically, these three answers represent three different theologies of reward and punishment. The first is at the hand of God. The second is at the hand of man. And the third is social repercussions. Okay? So those are that's actually a very interesting exploration that we just did when we see it that way. We in the name of God, we scare them in the name of punishment, and we scare them in the name of social standing. And that's about all you got. What else do you have?
it's sort of interesting. I think, even though we didn't think the last one was the most important one, I think it may be. I
It
think,
may be the most believable.
that people really feel social standing is very important.
Right.
Well, you said that they would have to pay the penalty if they're found that they were lying.
Correct.
They would have to pay the
And notice they didn't even mention that. Like, that's what I would say. If you're lying, the punishment will be blank. But again, it might be worth it. They might say, oh, I'm going to owe $150 if I don't get away with it. Okay, if I get away with it, this guy's going to owe me a favor for life. Right? So we don't offer the punishment that they would get as one of the ways to scare them. It's interesting. Okay. All right, let's move on. The Mishnah states. So we're going to go back and quote something from the Mishnah. Im amar hu amar li. So the case that you were so curious about, if he says, if Yehuda is here and Yehuda says, Reuven said to me he owes the money, right? And the Mishnah said, lo amar klum, it's worthless testimony. Ad shi'omru b'fanenu hodulo shehu chayav lo 200 zuz, until he comes and stands before. He says that he was before us and that he owed him 200 zuz. So now we're going to give a couple different versions of that scenario. The first question is going to be, Misayele le Rav Yehuda. So this is supporting Rav Yehuda. De Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav, Tzarich she'omar atem edai. So Rav Yehuda has a principle that he learned from Rav, that he has to have said, you are my witnesses. So in other words, two people can't just witness something. The person has to have said to them, come here, be my witnesses for this. I owe him 200 zuz. You got that? Good. It needs that ceremony. So in other words, the Mishnah said, Vahodulo. He acknowledged him. He admitted. So it wasn't just bifanenu, but he was acknowledging it bifanenu. So this is saying, is the Mishnah, which has two witnesses seeing this happen, is this really a support for the Rav Yehuda teaching that says it's not just seeing, they have to have been enlisted as witnesses formally?
But that would result in a bribery.
Yeah.
No.
He's telling them, I'm telling you, you're going to be my witness.
No, before the deal is done, at the time of the deal. So I'm about to do a deal with Ron, and I'm going to call two witnesses over. I'm going to say, I want you two to be my witnesses for the deal that I'm doing with Ron right now. Okay? And they say, yes. We loan the money, or I say, I acknowledge that I owe him 200 zuz, and you're my witnesses. You got it? And then, yep, we're witnesses. Okay, good. Now, according to Rav Yehuda, that's what you need. as opposed to these two were just sitting here when I said, you know what, I owe you 200 Jews.
It's like getting documents notarized. And you need
Did
to-
they could go to the court. If I say to Ron right here in this class, you know what, I owe you $200. I didn't ask them to be witnesses. According to the Mishnah, it sounds like they're kosher witnesses.
Right.
According to Rav Yehuda, they're not. Because I have to first say, will you two please be my witnesses for what I'm about to say? That's a difference. So the question is the Mishnah actually supporting Rav Yehuda or not? Right? Is the Mishnah weaker than Rav Yehuda? Is it the same? Is it different? That's what's happening right here in the Gemara.
One is
Are
hearsay
they,
and one
the,
isn't.
are they the witnesses when he actually gives him the money? Or
No,
when the
in this
transaction is
case, they're
done?
witnessing that I'm acknowledging the debt.
Oh, but
They didn't
not-
see the
not
money.
the actual-
They didn't see the money move. They heard me tell him that I owe him the money. They didn't see the money move.
And
It's like
obviously,
hearsay.
Rabbi Yehuda's lesson is a step up.
Very
from what
strict.
the Mishnah says.
Very strict. Harder to
What if
prove.
they are the witnesses to the transaction?
I think that would be a slam dunk case. Right? If they saw the money move,
Right.
with or without me saying what it's for. Because if they just saw me give him $200, they don't know what it's for.
Yeah.
I might have been paying him money I owe him. Right? They don't know what the 200 is. But if I hand him 200, if I take 200 from him, and then I say, I owe you these $200. If they saw both of those things, it's a slam dunk case. But Rav Yehuda might still require that I told them to be witnesses out from the outset. I don't like Rav Yehuda because it undermines the concept of witnessing. I saw something. I'm a witness. Rav Yehuda wants it to be, I was asked
I
to be a
was
witness.
listening.
Also, what if one of those witnesses is no longer available? He died, he's sick, he's out of town, or whatever. I mean, you're stuck.
Right? You are. That's why things should be in writing.
My question is, so A lends B the money.
Reuven lends Shimon the money.
Okay, so Shimon gives the money back.
Shimon repays the
He
money.
pays the money.
Fine.
So the purpose of the witness is so that A can't say you never gave me the money back? Because if they,
Well, no, Shimon never repaid.
You don't know.
okay, but I'm saying if he does repay, is the.
Were the
you
witnesses,
have a witness-
did they witness the loan or did they witness the repayment of the
That's what
loan?
I'm saying. If you have witnesses witnessing the repayment of the loan,
Yes.
then there's no dispute.
Then it's
And-
done.
And
Because
then, right, because that part wasn't mentioned. Maybe they mention it later.
yeah, no,
So,
I think this is
that
all
is
about
okay.
witnesses to the loan happening, not to
Okay.
its repayment. I guess you could have it the same thing. Like I loan you $200, you paid me back, but you didn't pay me back in front of witnesses. So I could still be claiming you owe me
Claiming you didn't-
Right,
200,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that
right?
can happen.
If somebody has witnesses when you borrow from them, make sure you have witnesses when you pay them back.
Did they have written contracts during
Yes,
that time period?
Yes, all of this testimony is best happening with a written contract. You get in trouble when there's no written contract. A document is a slam dunk for the rabbis. The only thing you can do is find out whether or not those signatures were kosher witnesses at the time they signed. That's it.
No handshake.
They didn't use handshakes. That wasn't their thing. They used kinyan, pulling on a cloth.
Oh, really?
Okay, so
Why don't they start in if it had to be written, why don't they say in the beginning, if the witness
I said it doesn't have to be written. It's best if it's written. If
If it
it's
is
written,
written,
it's proven by the star, by the document. These are all verbal. This case in the mission is verbal.
Well,
The case in the mission is verbal. Because it would have said katvu v'chatmu bifanenu. He wrote it and we signed it in front of, there's a phrasing for documents. This is not the phrasing for documents. This is verbal.
this is an oral thing.
This is oral. They saw it, they heard it. Okay. So, Itmar Nami. It is also said, Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba Amar Rabbi Yochanan, that Rabbi Chia bar Abba said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Mane li biyadacha, you owe me 100, or literally 100 for me is in your hand, but you owe me 100. Amar lo hey. He said, yep, I sure do. Lemachar Amar lo tanehu li. So the next day the guy says, okay, so give it to me. And number 2 says, Amar Mishate ani b'cha. I was just kidding. I don't owe you
Don't kid
anything. What are you
about it.
talking about?
So
Patur.
that is-
Patur. He's exempt. Okay, so there's another teaching that says, Ron and I are talking, and I say to Ron, I owe you 100. Oh no, Ron says to me, you owe me 100, right? And I say, okay. And he comes tomorrow to claim it. And I say, you kidding me? I was messing around. I don't owe you 100. I'm exempt. I don't have to pay that. All right? Even though I acknowledged verbally, he said, you owe me 100. And I said, yes. But I can claim that I was just kidding around. And I get off the hook. Okay. Now, we're going to get a Braita, a Mishnah age teaching, that's going to expand that scenario. Okay? Here we go. Tanya Nami Hachi. It's also taught in a Braita the following way. Mani li biyadacha, there's 100 of mine in your hands. Amar lo hen, he said, yep, sure is. L'machar amar lo, tenei lo hi, and the next day he said, well, so give it to me. And amar lo mishatei ani b'cha, and he said, I'm just kidding, patur. He's exempt. Same language. Braita goes on. V'lo od, not only that, ella afilu hi chmin lo edim achore geder.
Oh.
Even if he had witnesses on the other side of the fence when this happened. Okay, so Ron said to me, you owe me 100. And hidden behind the bookcases over there are two kosher witnesses who hear it. And I say yes, and they hear it. Okay, even in that case, Amar Lohain, and then he says to me, okay, Ritzoncha shetodeh bifnei ploni v'floni. Are you willing, is it your intent to acknowledge this in front of these two witnesses? So he reveals that they're there. Amar lo anishema tichpeni ladin. I'm afraid of you that you're going to try and drag me into court over this right now. Right? So I didn't deny it. I just said, I'm afraid you're going to drag me into court. And so the next day, Lamachar, Amar lo tnehuli. So he comes to me the next day and he says, so give me the money. And Amar lo mishatei ani b'cha, and now I claim, even though the witnesses heard it, I was just kidding. Patur. He's still patur. He doesn't have to pay. Okay? So he did it with witnesses who could hear it, but I was unaware of. He then reveals the witnesses, and I say, now, I'm not going to say it again in front of witnesses, because you're going to drag me into court, and that's a pain in the tuchus. I'm not denying the debt, but I'm refusing to repeat it in front of the witnesses. That's enough. And the next day I say, I was kidding. I don't have to pay it, even though those witnesses have been brought to court. The ein tonim lemesit, and the judges don't intercede to help anybody in the case of someone who incites people to idolatry. That's a throw-in at the end of the Braita. It's a new topic. It's off topic. They're going to deal with it next week in the Gemara, why that's there. But at this point, you should know that Braita seems to support Rabbi Yehuda. It seems to support Rabbi Yehuda because Rabbi Yehuda said the witnesses aren't just witnesses who hear, they're witnesses who were brought in at the outset to be witnesses for the case. And I refused to do my thing in front of them under that condition, even though I haven't refused the legitimacy of it at that moment. I reject it later, their testimony doesn't count. So it seems this Baraita seems to support Rabbi Yehuda.
Yeah.
Does the Mishnah support Rabbi Yehuda? Not so clearly. Because the Mishnah just said, in front of us, he said. Right? Rabbi Yehuda needs...
It doesn't discount.
It doesn't discount, so it's still an open question. Yes.
But if the witnesses who are in hiding and hear it, the plaintiff could also say, the defendant could also say, well, that's entrapment, because I didn't know.
Could be. I did.
That's
What is this? What are these witnesses? Right? You're getting me to say something that I never would have said.
It's recording.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you. I won't put it on the recording.
Right.
Recording.
Yeah, no, but recorders, it's a good example. There are people who will say things that they won't say things if they know they're being recorded. Right? It doesn't mean that the thing is true or not true. They just won't say it where it can come back to bite them in a court of law. Who wants that? Okay, so that's it. We're going to pick up with the Mesit Man Devar Shmei, who brought up this whole idea of the idolater. Like, we all kind of blinked at that and said, wait a minute, what's that doing there? Not that you were eager to pursue it, but you noted that it was off topic. The Gemara also notes that it's off topic, and it's going to pick up with that next time. And then we'll get back to our original. So there's a digression. We're about to enter a digression.
Oh, good.
Or even
We'll see you next week.